begin this morning with an unending crisis in the Nigerian federal institutions. The Academic Staff Union of Universities has extended a 6-month strike after weeks of heated discussions. The decision came on Monday after a meeting of ASUU National Executive Council at the University of Abuja. Nigerian public universities have been on strike since February 14 over unresolved issues of pay and work conditions. The union is asking for a renegotiation of the 2009 agreement, payment of end allowance, and a review and replacement of current payment system. Human rights lawyer Femi Falana says the federal government does not have the legal backing to proscribe the Academic Staff Union of Universities ASUU over its continued strike. His comment follows speculations that the Buhari administration had made plans to ban the union for failing to call off the lingering lecturers' strike. Falana says ASUU's rights is guaranteed under Section 40 of the Nigerian Constitution and Article 10 of the African Charter on Human Rights and People's Rights Act. Falana also cites the freedom of association and protection of rights to organize Article number 87 of the International Labour Organization Convention, which refrains the federal government from banning or suspending trade unions. Lots to chat about this morning. Leila, I'll come to you first.
Honestly, it's really disappointing news when you see that something that's gone on for 6 months, affecting the lives of so many students and lecturers too, is now going to be extended, and we don't know how long for. At the end of the day, we have to look at who is really suffering here. There are thousands of students that are unable to graduate this year simply because universities have been on strike for the past 6 months, and the federal government has still not found a solution to this problem. When it comes to education, there has to be a clear line of how things are going to be done, and you have to be able to find these solutions, because now we don't know how long this strike is going to continue to go on for. But what we do know is that students continue to remain out of university. Students cannot graduate, and that is a huge problem. So, yeah, Doctor.
Okay, well, ASUU has been on strike since February 14. I guess today it will be about 192 days that ASUU has been on strike. The federal government, for its part, claims that it's been able to meet most of the demands by the university lecturers. That if, they're asking for 100%, that the federal government has been able to meet them up to 80%. But ASUU says this is not true. All the claims by the federal government are unacceptable to ASUU. And what is ASUU's point? ASUU's point is that, one, the matter of the payment system between what they call IPs, GIMFIs, and UTAS, which is the one that is recommended by the university teachers, has not been resolved. The recommendations of the various committees that have been set up by the federal government itself, the Munzali Jibril Committee, and also after the Nimi Briggs Committee, they said government has not done anything about it. They also insist that the 2009 agreement, government is not following the agreements there, as well as the Memorandum of Action of 2020. So this weekend, ASUU chapters all over the country met, and there was a meeting, a National Executive Council meeting in Abuja, where it was resolved that based on the resolutions from the various chapters, that this will no longer be a rollover strike. What they have been doing previously was what they called a rollover strike. They go on strike 6 weeks, they extend it another 6 weeks. Now they say the strike will be total and indefinite, which means that ASUU has drawn a line, a line in the sand. Contrary to what we have heard from other unions that went on strike also. The Senior Staff Association of Nigerian Universities, SANU, the Non-Academic Staff Union, NASU, and also the National Association of Academic Technologies, NAAT. So this is where we are, and if you look at it in terms of cost, it looks like the universities are going to remain shut down, for God knows when. So there's serious uncertainty in the tertiary education sector. Even if NASU and SANU and NAAT have returned to school, who is going to teach the students if the universities are not there? And the university teachers are saying they will never accept the no work, no pay rule that the federal government is insisting upon. Meanwhile, ASUU also has issues with the state universities. The Committee of Pro-Chancellors of State Universities has had to issue a statement upbraiding Professor Emmanuel Osodeke, the president of ASUU, for having the temerity to dismiss state universities as being irrelevant and quacks. So you have within the body, also a lot of internal problems. The other leg of it has to do with the intervention of Mr. Femi Falana, SAN. Mr. Femi Falana, SAN, is saying that the university teachers are absolutely within their rights, to protest or to go on strike or to engage in collective bargaining, contrary to what the federal government appears to be saying. Because there have been insinuations that the federal government will ban ASUU. In fact, some persons have supported the federal government who are saying that ASUU should be proscribed. And what Femi Falana, SAN, has done is to remind the federal government of the rights of those university teachers under the Constitution, the rights of expression, of association, and under international law, the right to collective bargaining. At the end of the day, where do we go from here? The people who are suffering on account of this are parents of university students who have even volunteered to a proposal of 10,000 naira per academic session. Well, ASUU doesn't think that what they are looking for is 10,000 naira per session from students. They say they want the university system to be revitalized. The people who are losing out of this are the students who are at home, many of whom may not even remember whatever they already learned before the ASUU strike. This happens all the time, and it doesn't quite look good. Maybe what we need to look at going forward is a funding structure of our university system. Are there models that we can learn from, that we can borrow from other jurisdictions that we can now domesticate here to prevent a situation whereby students who are supposed to spend 4 years in the universities end up spending 7 or 8 years for a course that should not be more than 4 years?
Every part has a blame in this ASUU thing. And the problem first is there's an economy of strike, which is happening between the government and the unions. For all these meetings, there are people being ferried to Abuja in flights and all of that. People make reservations and all of that. And that's why you see that the agreement is long drawn out between the government and ASUU. So that economy of strike, once it continues to happen, civil servants will want to eat from the strike. They will set up committees like the NIMI Briggs committees. For when those committees sit, people will make money from the strike and all of that. But it's at the expense of the student. The first blame goes to the federal government for not spending enough on education. And when you don't spend enough on education, this is what you get. Also, there's also blame to go around in ASUU. People have argued that ASUU is not even supposed to be talking to the federal government. That they're supposed to talk to the council of every university. That there's autonomy there. That they should talk to their council, which is their employer. And people even cited a case where the president, former president of Nigeria, Olusegun Obasanjo, sacked somebody. And the person said, no, you can't sack me, a lecturer. That it has to go through my council. And they won the case in court. That ASUU should be talking to their council as regards their needs and all of that. And the council so in turn should talk to the federal government. The person even posted in his argument that that's why you see that they deliberately put Professor NIMI Briggs there, who is the chairman of, the council in charge of councils, university councils all over the country, so that when they sign the agreement, it is a representative of the university council all over the country that signs the agreement with ASUU, not the federal government. So there's an economy, a murky, bureaucratic economy of strike that is also going on here. But let's look at the future. It is not sustainable, this model of the federal government putting certain funds aside for education. It's obvious they can't meet that need. They don't even have the prospect. But we want Nigeria University to be internationally competitive. Times have changed. We don't have the good old days where we had a lot of money in the 70s, crude oil money where we can pump into the universities and the likes. Then what do? We have to bring about an international funding model. It has to be full autonomy. The universities should be able to run their schools through the money they generate. Somebody was telling me about University of Lagos making close to 200 or 300 million naira from post-UTME forms alone. That money should be deployed to the universities. If they're going to increase tuition fee, they increase tuition fee. The government should create buffers. In America, we all remembered, prior to after the Second World War, only few Americans had university education. What did the government do? Brought about a scheme called the GI Bill for people that went to fight in the war to be able to get education. A lot of people went through the GI Bill. I think 2 or 3 past presidents of America were alumnus of that GI Bill. You can put in a bursary scheme in place to be able to subsidize for indigent students. You can make it a local government-wide bursary scheme. But the universities have to charge normal fees so that they can plow that money back into research and the likes. Also, the University Commission should come in strong in all of this, as regards regulation and upholding the standard of the university, then the school also should be opened up to an endowment fund. There are lots of schools. One of about the best universities in Nigeria as we speak today is Pan-Atlantic. Pan-Atlantic has a lot of endowment, all right? We all saw the great work Endowment Fund did do in the University of Ibadan College Hospital. Dr. Philip Ozoa brought in $1 million, put in as endowment fund to the university, the teaching hospital. Will go a long way. Just imagine if you have many more people putting endowment funds of millions of dollars, it could go a whole long way. The biggest universities in the world operate based on endowment. Harvard's of this world, they've got endowments in multiple folds of billions. St. John's College in Oxford has got hundreds of millions in endowment fund. That's another way to go. But the universities have to be solely independent because Nigeria universities are not efficient. They're not accountable. And also in doing this, government too should be able to set targets for them. So take, for instance, government funds universities in some other parts of the world like Canada and the likes. But for government to fund you, they will also give you a target of how many of your students that they graduate, how employable are they? So those are the targets you have to meet to be able to fund universities. But now, even the lecturers are sitting, they are just coming, lecturing and going. What are the targets, the milestones we're given to the lecturers themselves? A lot of Nigerian youths, after going through the university, are not employable. That should be on the lecturers. So everybody must sit up to make this our baby, the education system in Nigeria, grow. The lecturers too must be accountable. What is their style of teaching and all of that? How employable are the university? I mean, we all apply for schools abroad and schools boast with employment capacity. Oh, our graduates, 98% of our graduates are employed after 2 or 3 years of graduation. How many of those are in Nigeria here? No, we don't have those targets. So we need to set targets across broad, make it more nimble, have a lot of effectiveness in the system. The revenue the university generates, yeah, they should have it. They should source from different ways. Also, raise tuition fee. Government then can create buffers through bursary scheme and the likes to help them out, and help indigenous students out. And I cited a great example, like the GI Bill in America that allowed a lot of people to go to school and things like that. Then just liberalize the system in such a way that even more investors can come in. There's a lot we can do in robotics and sciences and the likes. Also, there should also be a partnership between industry and university. In other climes in the world, we have the likes of BMW, the likes of Glencore, partnering with engineering departments in universities. We should also have that in such a way that they have like subvention funds for them and all of that. So the universities, the council should be made to run the university. Should go and look for the money to run the university. If they're going to increase tuition, government putting buffers in place, have endowment scheme in place. And I think if we can do it along the first 15 to 20 years, Nigeria university should be ranked highly in Africa. To start with, Nigeria universities are not ranked even highly in Africa, let alone in the world. You still get universities like Stellenbosch leading the ranking and the likes. So we can do all of that. It is possible. Don't let this crisis go to waste. After this ASUU strike, what next? Are we going to be striking again, or is it going to bring about the revolution we need in the sector?
And that's actually the fear, the question here of what comes next, because this is a common recurrence that continues to happen. And when you were speaking about employability, I just wanted to bring something up before we move on. I was speaking to some students at the University of Lagos, right? And they're in their final year. And they said, we don't have NYSC, obviously, because we haven't graduated. We don't have degrees, obviously, because we haven't graduated. We've been out of school for 6 months. Of course, we need to get jobs, but how are we supposed to even go and get jobs when we're not competitive on the market because we don't have that degree and we don't have NYSC? We're sitting at home like lame ducks. And this is another huge problem because people are sitting at home. Does the government have some sort of plan now that we don't know how long the strike is going to go on for? What are all of these students supposed to do? They can't just sit down and not be able to sustain themselves. They need to be able to at least get jobs or some sort of support from the government during this period of time.
I'd say get certifications, get skills, get coding,
And that's what a lot are doing, isn't it?
Please, yeah. Just do it as much as... The Federal High Court sitting in Abuja has dismissed an application filed by the federal government for the extradition of former Deputy Commissioner of Police Abba Kyari to the United States. In August last year, the Nigerian police force suspended Kyari after he was indicted by the FBI on a 1.1 million fraud linked to notorious fraudsters Hush Puppy. The government began the process for Kyari's extradition following a request from the U.S. Embassy, but the court held that the extradition application was incompetent and bereft of merit. End of quote. The judge said that the government has no grounds to file an extradition request after putting Kyari on trial in Nigeria for the allegation. I mean, Dr. Abati, I'll specifically come to you about this because you had pointed this out as regards the extradition first, that once he was tried in Nigeria, that the extradition might not hold water. Your words came true.
Yes, which is the point that was made by the presiding judge, Justice Nyang Ekwo. The ruling was specific, saying that the application was incompetent and lacking in merit, and that it was brought in bad faith. And so, on that grounds, the presiding judge dismissed the matter. And he made the point that the Attorney General of the Federation could not have claimed not to know that, that particular application would not stand. Because if you look at Article 4 of the extradition treaty, the original one of 1935, it says, for example, that, look, there are circumstances under which an extradition proceeding cannot fly. And that principle is sustained in the Extradition Act of 2004. In Section 3, it's the responsibility of the Attorney General of the Federation to file for extradition upon the receipt of a request from another jurisdiction. And if he thinks he doesn't have merit, he doesn't have to apply for it. But the procedure will require the Office of the Attorney General to first apply to the High Court, and then for that order to be granted legally before the process can continue. However, the court in this particular matter relied on Section 3(2)(a) and Section 3(6)(a) of the Extradition Act. And what does it say simply? It protects the integrity of the municipal jurisdiction to the extent that, look, if a person is being tried for a particular offense in a particular jurisdiction, the municipal jurisdiction, you cannot apply for the extradition of such a person to be tried in another jurisdiction while that particular issue is still pending, until the person is convicted or acquitted or the case is determined one way or the other. Then any application for extradition that you bring forward will not work. That is the principle in Udozo versus Federal Republic of Nigeria. There's also the Buruji case, but the principles are more or less the same. The other grounds that will be considered will be if the person, under Article 4 is being, subjected to that application on the grounds of political intimidation. And so when the District Court, the U.S. District Court of California, ordered the FBI in 2021 to arrest Abba Kyari, it became an issue with Nigeria extraditing. So the insinuation, not insinuation, I think the judge was categorical enough, was that the Attorney General himself of the Federation should not have brought the application in the first place, knowing that the law is very clear in its very literal interpretation. So the question you ask is, why would the Attorney General's office, knowing this, file that application before the court? I think for now, the matter is settled because it's clearly straightforward.
I mean, Leila, you're taking this?
No, absolutely the same. It's that question of why, if you know that this can't happen, why would you put that application in the first place? But what I wanted to ask as well is, now that the court has come out to refuse, does that then settle the matter, or are the US going to continue to try to extradite Abba Kyari?
I mean, that's a great question, but I also told the line and even asked more questions by saying, why is it that after the extradition came in, all of a sudden, Abba Kyari was linked to another drug case?
Yeah, you got me there. That is a question.
And why all of a sudden it was taken in for that, drug case, then the extradition was quashed? Didn't the Attorney General know all about this? That's another great question you asked Dr. Abati. So is it that this will linger on for a while with the Nigerian judicial system we know, to a point where, obviously, or the Americans are going to keep pushing this extradition? There are many questions around this, and it's even painful that a judge could come out and say, didn't the Attorney General know this?
In fact, to answer your question, there was one point that Justice Ekwo even pointed out, that it was in fact the Office of the Attorney General that granted the fiat for the prosecution of Kyari on the drug charges filed by the Drug Law Enforcement Agency. And, it's a very simple matter of procedure that if you granted the fiat, why will your office again bring this application?
Can you imagine? So is it that, we're having a slant that somebody just wants to say, okay, I did it, so that you not say I didn't do it,
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
I
at
mean,
this point,
because so
yeah.
what is really going on here? But I'll keep saying, like I always say, righteousness exalts a nation. Here in Nigeria, President Muhammadu Buhari has signed the Counseling Practitioners Council of Nigeria bill into law. The act established the Counseling Practitioners Council of Nigeria, charged with the responsibility of advancing study, training, and practicing of counseling as a profession. Other bills signed into law include the Civil Aviation Act, the Nigerian Meteorological Act, and the Pharmacy Council of Nigeria Act, and more. There's a lot to talk about as regards this. Leila, I'll start from you. Counseling Practitioners Act and Aviation and Pharmaceutical Council of Nigeria Act. What's your take about this bill signed into law?
I'd love to give my take, but I honestly think that on this one, Doctor, I'm going to come to you first for your analysis on this, because there are quite a lot of acts here that we can see coming through. And, when it comes to law, that can't be defeated. So, Doctor, what are we looking at here with these 8 bills?
Well, I mean, it's difficult to comment on bills that one has not read. They are now acts. They become enabling laws. But with the kind of interest that has been shown in the President appending his signature to the Counseling Practitioners Council of Nigeria Act bill in particular, you could see that there was the input of the relevant associations and professional groups in this particular matter. But as for the details, we need to study the law to be able to know how important each of these new laws are. But it's also important to see that many of these pending laws are now being signed by President Muhammadu Buhari as his administration begins to wind down. Because one of the problems we have with legislation is that towards the end of a particular tenure, there will be such a plethora of bills on the president's table that will not be signed. And once the life of that particular assembly lapses, then of course the same bill will have to be brought again. So some, last minute hard work on the part of the president in signing many bills into law. The first thing, of course, is that the other thing is the true test of a law is in its implementation. This administration under President Muhammadu Buhari has signed quite a number of important bills into law. Take, for example, it was this administration that signed the Disabilities Prevention of Discrimination Against Persons with Disabilities Act. But a commission was set up, a board was set up. Up to this moment, nothing has happened. So it's not enough to just sign these bills to go through the process. It's for those bills to be effective. But from what I've seen on that list, the counseling profession, I was surprised that there is a Counseling Practitioners Council in Nigeria, because counseling is something that we need in this country, particularly with the increase in the rate of suicide and all kinds of problems that people have in this country. So, I mean, that kind of body deserves to have an enabling law. And if you look at the other ones, Civil Aviation, Meteorological Agency, Pharmacy Council of Nigeria, Management Development, these are establishments that will need enabling acts. So it's good that this has been done, and there's one that should be of interest to us also, the Advertising Regulatory Council of Nigeria Act. But as I said, the devil is in the details. It's for the practitioners to take a look at what has been signed into law, and see whether this is what will serve their purpose, and this is what will be implementable for the integrity of the affected institutions.
But, on this list as well, you can see that there are quite a lot of establishment acts, like the Nigerian Meteorological Agency, for example. And my question is, take NIMET, the Nigerian Meteorological Agency. This isn't an agency that's existed for 2 or 3 years. This agency has been around for quite a while. Why is it only just getting an Establishment Act now? Why haven't there been establishment acts for such agencies prior to this, or have there been?
Well, sometimes, some of these agencies, they already have enabling acts, because every agency is a creation of law. But, those laws can again be reviewed. In practice, there may be issues. There may be issues that, stakeholders will bring up, and then you go back to the National Assembly to take a second look at the law, either to modernize it or to review it. But it will be difficult to have an agency of government that doesn't have an enabling law. But you can have, reviews, modifications.
I mean, just like Karma, the former reference used to be 1990s, early 90s for Karma, but we've just had a big review recently for Karma. That's the Company and Allied Matters Act. But real quickly, for me, I'm really excited that I've seen some big push here. The Pharmaceutical Council of Nigeria Establishment Act, is something that really gets me excited because the pharmaceutical practice in Nigeria has been really, really, at the back pedal. And we need the pharmaceutical practice in Nigeria to be improved upon so we can have a pride of place as regards our healthcare sector. And that is lacking a great deal in this country. When you look at it closely, there are a lot of complaints in this sector. Even in terms of dispensing drugs, apart from the making of drugs, but even dispensing drugs. The fact that people can just go to any pharmaceutical shop and say, give me XYZ without prescription. That has constantly been a problem that have bedeviled a lot of people. I mean, we had documentaries about codeine, sweet codeine in cough syrups, and how it was easy for people to get it. And those things are supposed to be prescription drugs. So, but like Dr. Bati did say, the devil is in the detail, but also in the implementation. How do we implement this? We must have steep penalties, and that's why we go back to our judiciary process. They must be made effective. I mean, we have a judiciary process that is so slow that once you take somebody to court as regards an offense in Nigeria, the person can have another 10, 15 years because of the judicial process. But if we can have a quick dispensation of justice and people get justice as regards these laws that are being violated in the country, then it goes a long way in bolstering the sector. And it will bring about, shrinking that pool of misdemeanors in society. Because those misdemeanors does affect us. I mean, we can't forget the good works of Dora Akinyolu, how she fought against fake drugs. But till date, you still have a pandemic of fake drugs in Nigeria, still coming in one way or the other, despite the good works of NAFDAC. So laws like this will help bolster us, just like the advertising one I saw, just like also I think I saw another one there that caught my fancy, if the laws can be put up on the screen again, just like the advertising one, because when you look at it, counseling practitioners, so just like counseling practitioners own, because when you look at Nigerian society, a lot of people are living with depression, and mental health issues on the increase. In fact, they're putting a number to it, close to 15 to 20 million Nigerians are living with mental health issues. And the problem is we don't have a societal structure that believes in talking to people. So we say, seeing a shrink is not a Nigerian thing, seeing a counselor, but it's a lie. A lot of Nigerians are constantly seeing counselors. They are taking therapy for mental health issues. They are highly on substance abuse and drugs. In fact, among our young people and youth in this country, there's a proliferation of escape drug, ecstasy and the likes, Indian hemp, and all sorts of drugs among our young people, cocaine and the likes. And people like this need counseling and rehabilitation, but also you can't leave them to quack counselors, because there's every Tom, Dick, and Harry out there that feels as long as I can advise you and say it's going to be well, that's counseling. No, that's not counseling.
It has to be a standard.
You need to have a standard. You need to be trained properly for it. So it will remove the quacks and all of that. And just like I'm excited about, the advertising one too, because their new evolution is advertising.
I am keen to see the details in that, the Advertising Act.
All right, thank you all so much. Thank you, Leah.